Hello, everybody. You're welcome to today's episode of Democracy Games podcast. Democracy Games is your number one podcast on everything democracy in Nigeria. Today, we'll be talking about active citizenship as the foundation of every democracy. And with me in the studio, we have Madam Ebere Ifendu, the founder of Women in Politics Forum, the gender goes in Nigeria. When you're discussing anything women in politics in Nigeria, you can't leave her out. Also, we have with us Victor Terhemba, the Great. He's the executive director of Raising New Voices, an organization who is piloting the deepening of democracy at the grassroots level. To my left, we have Amina Yahaya, aka the Queen of the North. Amina has traveled around Africa, deepening and doing the work of democracy. Also, we have Baba Ali Yusuf, aka Bruce Lee, aka the serial entrepreneur. Okay, Baba has so many MSCs, and we are all lovers of Nigeria. Thank you. My name is Orji Stephen, and I'll be the host for today's podcast on Democracy Games. Madam Ebere, I'll start with you because I know you understand democracy and Nigeria very well. How would you describe democracy in Nigeria? What are your thoughts, ma? Spill, let us hear.
Okay, thank you for having me. For me, democracy as defined is government of the people, by the people, and for the people. And if you ask me, do we really have democracy in Nigeria? My answer will not be yes. Because when you look at citizens and participation, it's very low. They are not listened to. And these days, you see that it will not take the citizens to elect someone into an elective position. The judiciary is there to support democracy. They are the ones actually electing, people to different positions. And so would you call that a democracy? I think there's something faulty with Nigerian democracy. And do we have leaders, empathic leaders? I'll say no to that. We have rulers. So for me, I don't think that there's anything to celebrate about our democracy. Yes, we can only say that from 1999, we've had a smooth ride without the military intervention. And so we'll say that we are, still having a learning process. But how fast are we learning? So for me, I think we really have to reevaluate our democracy and be able to, make amends if we truly want to have a democracy where people will be able to participate. Because if we don't participate, we'll see our elected officials as, people from a different planet, away from us. And that is not right. They should be accessible to us. Genuinely, if we actually elected them, we should ask questions. Our thoughts should also be put into consideration when certain decisions are being made. So for me, I don't know, but I think that our democracy is still limping. Yeah, thank you.
So, yeah, I want to add to what this Madam Ebere has said. She has actually said that democracy in Nigeria, she has actually pointed out the fault with it, and that's actually correct. So most of the times that when we speak about democracy in Nigeria, we basically confuse civilian rule with this democracy. And what we basically have, it's what kind of civilian rule and not exactly democracy. But however, in my own opinion, again, is that one of the reasons why democracy is still limping, as said by Madam Ebere, is because of the lack of active participation of the citizens. Yes, we have a situation whereby democracy is supposed to be for the people, by the people, and of the people, however. But we've seen where the courts have decided who elected leaders should be in Nigeria. But again, to me, that does not stop the citizens. So, for instance, I said that the outcome of the 2023 election disappointed a lot of people. So when you look at the voting number, so if 8 million goes to one person, and then 12 million or maybe 13 million go to another candidate, and 1 million go to another candidate, by the time you combine all the figures together, you're having about 25 million votes, right? So it means that when you take out the 8 million that voted for this particular candidate, you had about 15 million who voted against this particular kind of in power. And then so you understand why everybody is angry. But however, the person is in power. And so how do we now hold it? One key element of democracy it is that element of citizen participation, where we should and always continue to engage with the what kind of government systems, begin to hold them accountable. And it has happened in a way that because of what has happened, a lot of people has lost hope, and then they have taken the back seats. And so it looks like, whatever happens, happens. And so usually when something goes wrong, so for instance, the most recent issue that the government sponsors 589 people to COP, even though the government claims that the sponsor just only 422 people, according to them. And so what happened is that the conversation around citizens mostly is that, oh, these people are going to, this kind of plunder us. So they are like not that deliberate steps to actually now hold the government accountable. So usually you're not doing it in a way that you are going to lament, and then government will also continue. So we need, and one of the reasons why citizens are not drawing back, just as was mentioned by this Madam Ebere, is that the government is not delivering on the promises that it's made. It's not delivering the dividends of democracy. But again, I'll still come back to say that where we encourage active citizen participation, we are going to force them, whether they were decided or whether they were decided for us by the courts, or whether we voted for them or not. In fact, people that we vote, we shouldn't let them. There are people that were decided by the court. We have to actively, hold them accountable, participate in that process to ensure. It's absurd that a lawmaker argument for receiving 160 million SUV as an official vehicle is because the roads are bad. Is it the citizens that will go and do the roads? So at the end of the, honestly, if that were like in my constituency, what I would most likely do is to actually let's mobilize young people, go to that person's work on a constituent office, and ensure that you don't collect that this particular vehicle. And if you do, we might not be successful at that attempt, but it has already sent a message. That's it.
That's correct.
Nice.
Can I ask a question? Nigerian culture and democracy, can it work? No, because we
So what's our culture? Can you define our culture?
Okay. I can't. There are more than 300 tribes in Nigeria. Well. So now let's just go with the three major ones: Hausa, Yoruba, and Igbo.
Okay.
Now my mom's Yoruba, and the Yoruba culture, you cannot speak to an elder. If an elder is talking, you keep quiet. Whether the person is right or wrong, you have to manage a certain kind of approach.
Yeah, it's not just a Yoruba culture, it's a common culture.
So now if it's a common culture, then how would democracy work?
So again, this question that you ask is very why I first laughed initially was because I had written an article to say exactly why democracy is not working in the way that it is working in Nigeria. But however, if I were to go back and review the article, I will not basically change anything, but I'll just add to it because of, this question that you asked. Now, understand that democracy itself, by background historically, it is not foreign to Nigeria. It's not foreign to Africa.
It's not, sorry again.
It is not foreign. It is not strange. And I'll tell you why.
How?
See, honestly, democracy is as old as mankind.
That's true.
Anywhere you have people living, there is some form of democracy, or there's a form of governance going on there. So what actually happened with democracy in Africa is like what happened to Wakana River, Niger, that was discovered by Mungo Park. The river that has been there, people have been fetching water from there, eating from there, was discovered by Mungo Park, right? Because Mungo Park came and gave it a name. So it's like, take for instance, the Igbo pre-colonial political structure was what? They were republic. In fact, the democracy that they tell you that started from Greek, it was exactly practiced that same way in what called Igbo land,
Exactly.
where you had a general assembly, people go there, the Ozos or for Okpara, they come there, women, age group people gather in a particular square and take decisions that concern them. That is a direct form of democracy that existed, but we didn't have a name for it. They were just living their normal lives. When you come to the Southwest, you talk about the Oyo Empire, you had this same type of democracy with rule of law, separation of power, present, but we didn't know that was what we were doing.
Sorry, but even with that asking of the questions, is not the person that has the power to be able to ask the question that can ask the question in that group too?
No, so why do they have a general assembly? Like, for instance, when you go to the Igbo, because everybody you have to make inputs. Let it count. And again, if you go back to the empire also, the people voice also matter. For instance, they have something called an empty calabash, right? So that you are the Alafin, but your powers were not absolute. If the people say that we don't want you, if you go back, 15 million out of 23 million people say they don't want you, and they send you an empty calabash. No matter how strong you are, you will go.
You have to
Alafin Aole, this actually happened to him, and he had to go.
Okay, Amina, what are your thoughts? I know you've seen democracy in action. I know you also recently just came back from Sudan.
Yes, so I think it's basically around the same thing that Madam Ebere, Victor, and Baba have said. If you look at democracy in Africa, a lot of countries, the challenge is there, the problem is there, citizens' voices are not being listened to. And if you're making an example with the case of Sudan, for example, it was a very powerful revolution. You know, people came together and said, we've had enough of all of this. We want civilian rule, which was a positive. But how was it received by the people who were in power? They paid dearly for it, and they're still paying dearly for that. People came together, they protested, they insisted that we don't want this person anymore. We want someone else to be elected and all of that. And there was a massacre, and a lot of people got killed while they were protesting for their right, for simply airing their views and saying that we do not want this anymore. We want a different approach. And people got killed and all of that. But it did not stop them. They continued. And it will actually surprise you to know that a lot of the people who were at the forefront of this revolution in that country were actually young people. The only challenge was that they were mostly doing it in very unorganized groups. And, you know, it comes back to this challenge of we don't want to have a leader because we don't want someone to go and accept any deal on our behalf while we have not fully committed to it. And it kind of begs the question of how then do you reach an agreement if you do not have representatives? These people who are in power, they are stronger than you and all of that. So they cannot talk to all 10 million of you young people at the same time. So you need to have representatives who can also speak on your behalf. And then, you know, like you have a means of communication so that there's a general agreement to that. But that was actually one of the areas where it was a huge challenge, getting everyone to coordinate together and have a singular message, you know, like coordinated message towards the people who
just
were in
like
power.
NSAS situation.
Exactly. And that was a huge setback for them because it became divided in a way. One group was ready for, okay, let's have a deal so that we have a transition period and within this time we'd have a new government. Another group was for, we don't want any communication at all. Which they may have their reasons for saying that, because if you look at the history of the country, there's been like people who are maybe 30, 29 years and below, they've never witnessed a transition in government. Ever since they were born, they've only known one president, and that's what they've known all through their life. So it's a bit difficult for you to tilt their thinking towards the thought of, oh, there's something called negotiation, there's something called agreement. You need to interact. Even if you don't want a leader, you need to interact and reach an agreement. You need to have a deal so that the power it's difficult for you to explain those kind of things to them. They've never seen an election. They've never seen a transition in government. They don't understand the electoral process. Even the election, they don't have an electoral act. All of those things are still being put in place. So it's just different countries with different contexts, but it's still the same thing. The kind of democracy that we all have expectations for is not what we are seeing in like most African countries. So it's the same challenge, but different contexts.
From our contributions now, some words keep popping up. People, government, you know, transition and all of that. I know our constitution says that the security and welfare of the people is the primary purpose of government, and that the people would have the power to direct the affairs of their government. Ma, why are you laughing? How do you link directing the affairs of government and people getting their will, getting the government to do their own bidding? Yes, we've elected you now. Now you're in charge of our security and you're in charge of our welfare. What options are available to the people, ma, to, actually direct the affairs of government? Is it even possible? Is it even possible?
What you're basically asking is there accountability for the government?
Yeah, let's hear.
Accountability, or when there's a need, can the citizens recall their representative?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what you're looking at. Yes. Well, recalling a representative is a very difficult thing to do, even though it's in the constitution. You'll be asked to get a number of signatures and things like that. That will not always work. And then the representative will also use his funds. I think the major problem for us as a country is that citizens are not really politically exposed or politically conscious. I will use that word. Yeah, because there's this idea that we have our leaders and then we are below them. So we have already placed them far ahead of us, and that should not be. We should actually be
the other way around.
higher than them, because we put them there. So they owe us a duty, But I think what we should be looking at is, how do we get our people to be, politically educated? How do we let them know about their rights? How do we let them know that they can ask questions, and hold a representative accountable to our needs? And then if you look at it, what are we really asking for? We just need to have we can talk about good and quality education, free for, our children to a certain level. We can even say, let's have it up to senior secondary level. Nigeria is a rich country. We can afford that. We can also afford, giving a kind of education loan, or do we call it loan or grant, to people to get to the university. We are asking for, proper healthcare system where you can walk into the hospital and you get, the kind of treatment that is, respectable. Not that you will walk into a hospital and you are not getting service because you have not deposited money. So we look at money. We are not looking at how to, save lives. So that's a huge problem. And there's no sector that you want us to look at, and then, people will struggle, go to school. Mothers will, suffer to train their children. And then even after graduation, they are still taking care of that child. And at least there should be employment. So what are we really asking for? It's just good governance. Just a little token. And we have resources, to get these things done, but we are not prioritizing. Our legislators will want to use bulletproof cars for problems that they created. Because if people are working and people are busy, what they would start talking about crime.
Yes, stay on that thought. We're coming to you. We'll stay on that thought. I know, ma, you were you were at the forefront. Your organization was at the forefront in advancing for the gender bills that was rejected by the last administration,
Yeah.
I remember thinking in my head when the advocacy was going around that, why do we have to beg for the gender bills to be passed? Because if you look at the maths, right, women and young persons in every election that has happened in Nigeria have always constituted 70% of all the votes cast. If this demography form the majority of every vote cast, then why can they not direct the affairs of the legislature, which is a direct link they have to their government, to do their own bidding, in this case, the gender bills? Why do we still have to go and beg? Please give us gender bills. Why do we still have to do that if we are in a democracy?
Let me say that we didn't actually go to beg. What we did was to advocate.
Okay.
And that's part of democracy. So we didn't go to beg.
But we didn't get what we wanted.
We didn't get what we wanted, but at the same time, we were able to occupy the National Assembly. That showed strength. It showed strength. And then women came out to, show their anger. We were able to disrupt activities, people did not access the National Assembly. Even the high and mighty could not access the National Assembly because people came out, women, youth, both men, young men, and
I was
even
there
older.
too.
You were there with us. So we didn't go to beg. And after that, I'll tell you that the conversation today is about the 5 gender bills because they have seen that, yes, women, youth, persons with disabilities will want to be part of governance. And the only way to achieve it is through, legislation. And the legislation must give us affirmative action. And for me, most importantly, we must have extra seats, special seats for women. That has to happen. Yeah, because you see, yes, extra seats for women, that has to happen. So I don't want us, to feel that the present 10th Assembly will not be wise enough to pass those bills. I'll tell you, most of the people that voted against the bills last time didn't get back to the National Assembly. And so if you think that, people didn't do anything, just to tell you that, I mean, we started what we call the constituency league, because initially they were talking about not getting, the pressure from their local constituencies. So what did we do? We started training women within their constituencies. And so when they get back, ask them, please, how did you vote at the National Assembly? Did you vote for us or against us? I tell you, I was in Ethiopia and I met Senator Mongodo, and he was proud to tell us that he actually voted for extra seats. So for you to, get us to listen to you, get us to work with you, you have to come out openly to tell us how you voted. And so it's a plus for any parliamentarian to speak about it.
And that is active citizenship.
Yes, that's active citizenship. When the present deputy speaker was contesting for that position, he was on Arise Television. And the major thing he talked about was the 5 gender bills, and that he would ensure. And you think that's a joke? He understands it, that Nigerian women will no longer tolerate parliamentarians getting there and not doing what they should do. We are more organized. So for me, the 5 gender bills would have been better for them if they had passed it at that time. Maybe we wouldn't have been so conscious. Maybe we wouldn't have been able to galvanize the way we've galvanized now. So we didn't really lose the 5 gender bills. What it did was to bring us together, for even the local women to understand our issues. Because we have opened up a kind of network now that we didn't have at that time. And so it's very important for them to save their seats. Because like I said at that time, I told them, I said, for as many of you will identify that didn't vote for the 5 bills, will definitely not make it to the National Assembly back. And they didn't get back. At least few of them that we actually recognized did not get back.
And
to
we
the
can
National
directly
Assembly.
attribute it to the action of the women.
That's the truth. That's the truth, because we follow them up. I remember an incident that happened there. That was when we went to APC Secretariat. We met one of the parliamentarians and he tried to be nice. And I said to him, no, I was right behind you and you didn't vote for us. So you can't come here to, address then Minister for Women Affairs, Pauline Tallinn, as your mother. She can't be your mother if you did not respect her to vote for the gender bills, because she was seated there. And I was right behind you. You didn't vote for us. And immediately I said it. Oh, the women became, a kind of aggressive. They were rude to him. They smuggled him out. Finally, he left APC. He went to another party and still failed to get elected. So that will tell you our strength.
You don't neglect the women.
That's correct.
So this is the story of women and active citizenship in Nigeria, right?
Yeah.
As young persons, what is our story? What is our story of active citizenship?
So before I even answer that question, let me just also chip into what Madam Ebere said. I was glad that the first thing she said was to actually correct the notion that they didn't beg, because truly they didn't beg.
Yeah.
They went on a massive advocacy protest at National Assembly. And I know that for quite a while, people could not get access, so they had to use the other gates, the back gates to enter. But again, that also kind of illustrates what I was trying to say, that when government gets into power, when people get into power, we don't leave it We don't leave them to go and rule and then expect them to do what is right. Apparently, they will not do what is right by us. It is not our responsibility. So you could have imagined that when they threw out the 5 gender bills, and then work on everybody has said, "Oh, these guys are not serious. They just hate Nigeria." But no. But the thing was that women, let's mobilize, and then went to the National Assembly to protest, and that also raised more awareness for those particular bills, and that it has become something that politicians were very not keen to be associated with because it's something that now have political value. And when you now ask for those of that, what is the story of young people? The story of young people, you see traced back to both NSAS protests. Yes, not too young to run exactly, and also the electoral reforms that happened between 2020, 2021, 2022, you know, all of this. So when you look at not too young to run, a constitutional amendment consistently and persistently, they kept talking about it. I know when I was in Lagos, I joined the cell in Lagos for offer. This is not too young to run. When I moved to Abuja, in fact, the thing had already gained more this momentum in Abuja than in other parts of the country. Exactly. And they kept pushing. And, you know, it happened that it now became a fashion, a political currency for people to tap into by saying, "Oh, we support this particular not too young to run bill because young people should be there. We are appeasing to young people." I mean, it was tokenism. We know that it was some kind of hypocrisy. But we didn't mind. Just go there, give us the vote, pass this into law, and then we will not take it off from there. And which we have been doing. The same thing with NSAS. I mean, as much as it had its own failures, but you also see that it also puts government on its toe. At a point, some people now started coming out to speak against government high-handedness because they now also realize that you have to be on the side of the youth because you can't actually even come out and then say anything negative about NSAS. Same thing with the election. Young people control the narrative so much that even people who do not believe in the cause that young people believe in, either they don't speak up or they try to associate themselves for that same political value. So some people in another political parties or another kind of establishment want to associate themselves with where young people are because they think that will bring them some kind of electoral value. So these are already three instances. The electoral reforms journey that we this year also did. I mean, for us, even at this Raising New Voices, we actually set up an advocacy platform that basically aggregated young people all over the country to participate in that particular advocacy. And what happened? I mean, for the very first day we opened the portal, over about 2,000, thereabouts, 3,000 plus young people use the platform. And then the following day, because we opened it on a Monday, because the House doesn't sit on Monday, so they sit on Tuesday. And on Tuesday, when they were sitting, the Senate President said that he got over 900 messages and missed calls from Nigerians because of this electoral bill. And then he said because one platform went to go and put their details, and so everybody they were talking about us. And most of the people who participated in that particular campaign were these are basically young people. And we got the electoral act signed. Before it was signed, if you look at the history, 4 times the president had rejected to sign that for one reason or the other. But because the pressure was not much this other time, he had problems with the version he signed, but he still assented and then sent it back and say he would like if you will look at this section 84. So that's something. If it were before, he will reject it because of that same section 84. So now by the time they go back, make amendment and send it back, he would have be like, oh, it is already close to the election. If I sign it, it's going to disrupt a lot of things. But so that is just the power of activism. In fact, we can go back. Occupy Nigeria, the same thing. Open NAS, the same thing.
Yeah, okay. I quite agree with you to some extent, but I want to believe these activities are targeted at a result. Mm-hmm. So now looking at it from a result perspective, you know, are young persons seeing results? I mean, this is for you. Because I know people are still jackparing. I mean, the rate of jackpar today is even higher than ever before, right? In the midst of all these results and achievements, young persons are still jackparing, right? So what is the objective of active citizenship from a young person's perspective? And what tools are available? What tools can young persons explore to, you know, actually be active citizens in our country?
It's not always easy to give a direct response to
Sorry.
these kinds of questions because you have millions of young people and you have a lot of different approaches to certain issues. Sometimes people use protests to get their views heard. People send emails. People have interactions with their representatives at the assembly and the like. So there's a lot of different ways. So I think it's not all the time that you get the kind of result that you're looking for immediately. But like Madam Ebere has said and Victor has said during their conversation, sometimes it sends a kind of message and then it keeps the leaders on their toes. You may not get maybe what you're looking for at the time is for them to accent to the Gender Equal Opportunity Bill. We did not get it at the time, but it put all of them on alert that these women are serious, these young people are serious, and they are looking for this. If we're looking to get their support in the coming elections, then we need to find a way around it. We didn't get the results at that time, but it sends a message and it keeps them on their toes. And so next time, before they make a decision on something similar or other things, they will have a rethink and think about how it's going to, the thing is I think over the years, what I've come to understand with working directly or indirectly with politicians, you need to make them see how it benefits them. Whatever it is that you're trying to introduce to them, you need to find a way to tie it back to this is how it benefits you. And I'll give you an example. It's annoying sometimes because I feel like Nigerians are the most easy people to govern. They're not asking for too much.
Exactly.
They're not asking you to build skyscrapers. They're not asking you to digitalize.
But former President Disney actually disagrees with you.
Well, he is one person, and I think a whole lot of other Nigerians will disagree with him as well. Nigerians are asking for the most basic things.
Exactly.
Give us good roads. Let our children be able to go to school. Let's be able to have 3 square meals. Let me be able to afford food. Let me be
security
able to
also.
Security.
So that people can move.
It's very basic things. And there was a time some years ago, we worked on a project with State House of Assembly members in 4 different states. And so we're trying to navigate around the issue of holding constituency engagements. And they told us that the reason why they do not like to have this kind of interaction with their people is that once they go there, they start asking them for money. So it made us, we had to go back and sit down and think about, okay, how do we navigate this? Because this is part of a huge chunk of the project that we want to do with them. So how do we make them see the benefit of doing this while navigating this challenge that they have talked about? So what did we do? We went to those communities. We first of all looked for the leaders of each villages or the community, the popular, the influential people. And we had a meeting with them and we asked them some questions. Ever since you elected these people, how many times have they come to interact with you, to ask you what are your problems, what do you need? And they said never. In most places, the response we got was never. And then we told them, okay, do you know why? What is the reason for this? Of course, they will say that they don't know. We said it's because when they come to you, you do not ask the significant questions. You are asking them for personal things. You are telling them, I want to marry a second wife. I need money for the marriage. My wife just put to bed. I need some money for the ceremony. You are not asking them for the things that concerns the whole community. And so, for that reason, they may do it for one or two people.
That's also because of bad governance.
Exactly.
Yeah, because if they have those things in place, nobody will go there to ask them for money.
True. Yes, that's very right. So we had to try to find a balance between the two. So what we did was we talked to them and then we said, okay, fine. You have a larger control of a whole lot of people. Why don't we try this? When they come to you to interact with you, talk to them about the general problems that you have. The primary healthcare centers where you don't have medication, the schools that are dilapidated, the roads that are not good. Talk to them about those things. Don't ask them for personal things. Let's test it and see how it goes. Then we went back to the legislators and we told them we've had a prep discussion with them. So they were still hesitant. If most of them actually drew back, they did not want to. So they wanted others to go and test it first and see how it would be received before they would do their own town hall meetings. We were calling them town hall meetings at the time. So we started with a few of them. These initial group, influential people that we had meeting with, then talked to other people in their communities. Then they brought the larger group. Then they had the town hall meetings. And during that town hall meetings, they were asking for, it's very minute things. Okay, the waterway is blocked. We need it to be cleared. It's sanitation problems. It's healthcare. It's this. It's all these things. And those legislators stayed and they listened. And once they started to do those little things, everybody was happy. And after that project ended and we stopped doing it, some of those legislators continued to do it on their own because they saw the benefit of it and they saw that it brought them closer to their people.
Yes,
and they would benefit when the election comes, because now it has become the issue of you are the first person that we have elected that has ever come back to ask us directly what our products are. So that's why I said sometimes you have to make them see the benefit. How does it benefit them? What are you going to gain from doing this? What you're going to gain from doing this is that your people will be closer to you and you have a higher chance of winning the election should you come back to campaign in this area. So it's very dicey because I keep saying it all the time. Nigerians don't want to. It's the most basic things. Let's have electricity. Let's have education, security. It's very small things. We have not even started talking about the bigger things. So it's really
but
about.
they should not be taken, for granted.
For granted, especially,
Because,
of course.
because in our own case, we were taken for granted and we took that step to occupy the National Assembly. And I'm just imagining what will be the effect if those bills will come up again and they are not passed. Then you will understand that it will not just be like occupying the National Assembly. Because for us, we've actually gone to court, we got judgment, and it's not being implemented. And then this advocacy is not working out again. So I think this is actually our last chance with the legislators. So after this time, we'll have to now, rethink on how we are going to capture it. And this is just Nigerian women talking about laws. So this is also what we face in a bigger, society. If you look at what is happening in other West African countries where they have attempted coups, this and that, it's just basically because of bad governance.
Exactly.
So people will now decide, a better way to them, how best they can get back the government, get back our voted, officials, to do the right things. And then there may just be something like a coup. It may be what they call attempted. It may not be successful, like what happened in Sierra Leone. And then they are looking at Guinea Republic also, see Mali, see Niger Republic. And for me, I'm afraid it's getting closer.
Yes.
It's getting closer. And then we all have to be careful. That's the truth.
Baba.
Yeah. I've been listening and, for me, everything is like, I always try and look at things from all kinds of angles. And I still come down to, if you want people to participate in something, you have to show them that it works.
Yeah.
So if it hasn't worked in a while, why would I want to bother myself on any level whatsoever? Because, I've heard everything all of you are saying and it makes a whole lot of sense, but I still look at it that, okay, Nigeria, we have this culture. And based on this culture, we can't really, unless you are strong enough to tell the person, look, you can't do this. You're not going to say, everyone's just going to accept and keep it moving. So
So we are all getting to that point where we no longer think about culture. It has to be our survival.
Exactly, because poverty is the same all across Nigeria, and fuel price is the same.
It's the same, but at the same thing, apart from just even looking at the culture, like I was just asking myself now, what can you possibly say to me now that will make me get up and say, I want to participate? Like, what can you possibly say to me now?
You pay tax.
Yeah.
I pay tax.
A lot.
And that has done what so far?
So again, when you ask that question that people are still jabbering, people will still jabber despite the successes or achievement that you say we mentioned, because one, the welfare of people, economic welfare of people is actually very paramount to them. And when they're not seeing it, they are actually going to move. But then when you say show me something, the countries that we are migrating to, that we're jabbering to, it is working for them. And how is it working for them? You say that
is it
the
democracy that is working for them, or the system is working for them?
Because the systems, the institutions make up democracy.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the arguments, the conversation, it's getting really intense. And that's the whole point of this show. If you really want to learn more about the tools and, the system and the mechanisms of how you can actually direct the affair of your legislature, your government, to reflect your will, we're offering these courses on our website. Please do well to sign up on our website for the courses to to be active volunteers for Nigeria. Thank you so much, ma.
Sorry, how much is the fee for the courses?
Oh, it's free. It's free. It's free. It's free. What we're looking to do with this is that we're trying to build a community of Nigerians who understand that, see, that your legislator, your governor, will not come down to your street and clear the dust, the dirt on your street. You know, we are building a community of Nigerians who understand that, you know, your elected official, they won't come down and see, oh, tap is not rushing in your house. They won't come and fix that for you. We're building a community of Nigerians who actually know how to go about these issues, who know what steps to take. And you're going to learn about these things when you sign up on the courses that we're offering. My name is Orji Stephen, and thank you for staying with us on this episode of Democracy Game Show, where we teach the citizens how to win the game of democracy, and together we can build the Nigerian dream. God bless Nigeria. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, and God bless Nigeria.